So then, that game is finally upon us, and all of you wannabe cowboys can tuck into Red Dead Redemption 2 very, very soon, right after tonight's midnight launch, anyway, or as soon as you get the discs in the post. I'm Stefan from the Sixth Axis, and I'm here with AD, who has reviewed the game for us. Hello, AD.
Hello.
And yeah, you can catch Aid's review over on the sixthaxis.com right now, and there's a handy link in the top right hand corner of this video for you to click on as well if you want to catch that. But we're going to have a little bit of a chat about the game in this video. We're going to keep things pretty spoiler free, with most of the video in the background either from the first hour of the game or kind of just exploring and interacting with the open world a little bit later on, where it's not just snowy stuff. So yeah, with that preamble out of the way, AD, does it live up to the hype?
Yeah, it absolutely does. I mean, for a long time, with all of the hype going on and all of the constant promises from Rockstar about this amazing world they were going to create, I started to think, oh, there's just no way they can deliver on all of these promises. And for the most part, and for the most important promises, they've really delivered on it. It's quite impressive.
Awesome. Right, so in the game, you're playing as Arthur, and you're an outlaw, because cowboys and outlaws and stuff like this, and part of the Vanderlind gang, which you might remember from the first game to some certain extent. But this time around, you've got other people to look out for, like, properly. This is, like, you're really looking out for your gang, isn't it?
Yeah, and that really is the heart of the entire game. So in the original, whilst you had to sort of protect and save your immediate family, this time you have an entire community and a way of life and a huge group of people to look after. They're the ones who give you all of your missions and your motivations. But also, there's lots of downtime with them where you can really bond with them, learn a lot about their lives, their history. Everyone's got this massive history running up to this point with the gang. So this community are very important to Arthur, and they become really important to you. I found myself really focused on making sure that everyone was protected and that we were able to continue this way of life, this sub-community who were just trying to survive across the West.
So I noticed that there's some points where you've got minor little kind of dialogue options. Do those sort of play into your relationships with people, or is it kind of really just about fleshing out your understanding of the world?
Yeah, it's more just understanding the world and also plays into discovering more about the people. So when you're out on a ride with someone on a way to a mission or in the middle of a mission or anything like that, you can just hold down L2 and then it gives you a few different question prompts that you might want to, different topics you might want to discuss with them. You can't really have a good or bad relationship with them based on that. That's more to do with the honor system, which is Red Dead's sort of moral system of being a goodie or a baddie.
Yeah. So this is a prequel to the last Red Dead game, and how does that affect like the world? What's going on in the world? Because obviously, the first Red Dead Redemption, which is also the second Red Dead game, that was kind of pitched as being the very end of the Wild West and the cowboy era, but this one's a bit before then.
Yeah, it's kind of at the point where particularly Arthur, but some others as well, are just realizing that they have got a foot in the past and they're not really capable of transitioning into this new future of everyone being interconnected, which I don't know if it was deliberate with Rockstar, but with a lot of discussion about globalization and nationalism and stuff like that in the news at the moment, it felt quite timely as a plot point, the fact that this community are wanting to almost pull out from the world. So it is at the point where it's coming out of that cowboy era, but there's people who are just holding on to it. So the rest of the world, everyone you meet mostly, is trying to push towards the future. And you as Arthur and your gang, you're just trying to hold on to what's yours and find a place to exist within that. And the game is really about whether that's possible.
Yeah, you still don't really have too much technology encroaching on things. Like, you do have railroads and stuff like that, but it's a big open world out there, and I'm just wondering just how wild this version of the Wild West currently is.
It's still pretty darn wild. You have your little villages and your little communities, and you have some larger cities as well that you can explore. But then in a few minutes of riding out from them, you can really just be out in the middle of nowhere. And particularly if you head up to the north of the map to some of the Grizzly Mountains where all of the bears are, then you really are just out on your own. And one of the quite fun thing is you can just sort of set up your camp just about anywhere you like and make your little tent, pitch your tent and get in your sleeping bag and cook some meat on the open fire. And it does have this weird kind of, I don't know, fulfills that sort of fantasy of just being one person out in the middle of the nowhere, just trying to survive.
But obviously without having to actually venture out into the cold.
Yeah, because some of the rain, there's some of the storms that come along, proper feel just so soaked. I felt really sorry for Arthur because I hadn't just dressed in a short sleeve shirt at the time, and we got caught in this rainstorm, and the guy got absolutely soaked. And there I am, cozy in my front room, absolutely fine.
Yeah, I must say that it looks absolutely phenomenal. Just like the day-night cycle, for example, that looks fantastic. But just the world itself, there's so much detail packed into it.
Yeah, so much detail, and it's really that. Like the character modeling is really good. You know, it's definitely AAA, but it is the atmosphere and the environment that sets it apart. I was just blown away when, first of all, like you mentioned, you spend a lot of the prologue on a mountain covered in snow. But that snow is just glorious, and the way it moves around as people travel through it, it looks better than real snow in real life, I think. And the effect of sunlight going through a canopy of leaves and then the shadows appearing on the ground, the way when people travel underneath it, the shadows move across them. It just, it is that extra level that I don't think any other game has achieved as of yet.
Yeah. So onto something that I've never really been fond of in Rockstar games, which is the combat. It's always just, I don't know, it's just never really felt particularly right to me. How does it hold up in Red Dead Redemption 2?
It's the best they've ever done it before. It's definitely step up, obviously, from the original. And a step up as well from GTA 5. I think it benefits from the oldie worldy weaponry because it's much more slow firing and methodical. But having said that, most of the shootouts do just amount to you hiding behind the biggest piece of cover that you can find, and you have everyone just run towards you, and you can just pop out of cover, use your auto aim or the Deadeye ability, shoot them all in the head, and that's pretty much it. You feel like a complete badass because you just annihilated this entire gang in one shot, but it doesn't make you feel like you're having a significant challenge. They don't really attempt to flank you or maneuver around your position, despite the fact that you're just one guy hiding behind a shed.
Is there maybe like a hard mode, or do you think that's something that they'll save for later, maybe?
Yeah, it could well be that they'll bring that along later. I mean, it might be the case that when Red Dead Online comes along, that'll fulfill a lot of those extra combat challenges.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, yeah.
Yeah, because the combat it's solid. The aiming works really well. Connecting to the terrain and taking cover all works really well as well. It's just the AI doesn't push you as much as I think I would have liked to have been pushed.
Finally, horse testicles. They were a big part of the kind of not official, but sort of the viral pre-launch marketing campaign. Are they really that big, should I say? Are they a big part of the game?
Well, I have done an extensive investigation on this. Despite looming deadline, I did spend a good, half hour to an hour checking out horse testicles, including my own horse, Barry's testicles, at different points throughout.
That's a good name for a horse.
It is a good name for a horse. He's a lovely horse. He's very gentle and kind. Sometimes shocking. I was customizing Barry in the stables because you can change every detail of your horse, how his hair is plaited and so on. And as I was spinning him around to sort of get a good view of his tail, these enormous pair of horse testicles were flapping around. And there was a definite diminishing of size further into the game. And I found that out through first-person view, and I'd rather not talk about it anymore. I'm slightly traumatized.
Well, I think that's a pretty good place to wrap things up for today. Again, you can head over to the6thAxis.com for our review, and we'll have more shooty cowboy action on the site over the next few days as well. We'll be streaming at some point and a couple of other things going on as well. So hit like, subscribe, and share, and we'll hopefully see you soon. It's goodbye from me, and presumably goodbye from AD.
Folks, I'm going to tell you a morality tale from when our country was young that the settlers used to tell about the woods of Massachusetts and the creatures that lived there. One summer, a bear was by the stream, and old man Wind appeared and said, "Bear, I shall blow a mighty cold upon the land, and gorge yourself on fish and meat, and go find a den.